welcome back to another episode of Living My Faith, where we highlight those who are making kingdom impact. I'm Morgan Allen, joined today by David Armijo with Champion Forest Baptist Church, and we also have Hunter Price with V3 Voice, Vision, Victory. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here.
Yes, so David, tell me a little bit about you and what you're doing with the church.
Well, I'm the special needs ministry director. So I lead our special needs ministry, which serves our youngest is 3 years old and our oldest is 53-year-old. So we serve all walks of life. We have 4 different classrooms from preschool all the way to an adult small group Bible study for our high functioning adults that want their own Bible study. So that in a nutshell is what I do for the church. But I'm also working on a book on grief that deals with our personal grief of losing our daughter and helping other families walk through that season of grief, but also special needs families that may hit milestones and realize that their children may never have a prom or drive a car or get married. And there's a grieving process that happens for families.
That is amazing because it's often unseen whenever families have that type of grief and they can't acknowledge it or they don't have the right tools and resources. So that is fantastic that you're helping with that and sharing your story along the way. Hunter, I want to come to you and ask you, tell me a little bit about V3 Voice, Vision, and Victory.
Well, I was a high school basketball coach and really successful, had a huge career ahead of me. And one day I felt the Lord say, Hunter, I need you to step away from that. And it was really, really scary because I had built up so much sweat equity in it and was having a lot of earthly success. So I didn't know what was next. And I became a pastor and I started investing in people and coaches. And I built this coach community. So I started a podcast for high school coaches because I still had that itch. And as more people were listening, more people found out I was a believer and a pastor as a coach, they had so many more questions. So I was like, I got to add in like a Bible study element. We got to start teaching the Bible a little bit because you have coaches that are joining for the basketball, but I want them to stay to hear the word of the Lord. And I want to reach a group of people that is relatively unreached because we just assume they're fine. They're the popular people. They're the rich, their success, all these things. I'm like, no. These athletes, these coaches, they need Jesus so badly because they have so much influence over the world. We need to get them on Team Jesus here. So that's what the podcast is, V3 Voice, Vision, Victory. Hopefully it teaches people along the way and brings in new believers as well.
And that's so important. You know, coming from a background of sports, I remember coaches just make such an impact in these students' lives. And as you grow up in sports, just having that relationship with your coach, it really helps define what your life and your spirit life looks like. So
Yes.
that's amazing that you are doing that. Now, David, I want to bring it back to you. Tell me about the different ways that you're helping with the grief aspect of things. I know it's not linear, so tell me your process.
Well, I think part of it is for people to understand that they may be grieving. They may not even understand that they're in a grieving process. They just may feel overwhelmed. They may feel depressed. They may have a bunch of emotions that they're dealing with. So what I want to help people identify is that grief is okay, and we grieve for different reasons. And grief is unique to each person. How I grieved the loss of my daughter and how my wife dealt with grief were completely different. And so being able to identify that the things that you're doing are part of the grieving process, but you have to go through the process. You don't want to get stuck in one of the levels of grief and not be able to move forward. And the beauty of grief, my grief, 7 years later, it still feels the same as it felt the day that I lost my daughter. That grief doesn't go away, but I'm grateful for that grief because it means I loved so intentionally and so much that I'm still carrying it and feeling it. So grief is also something that I believe that God has given us as a way to carry that love going forward. So
Yeah.
grief isn't about being upset and being sad. It's also about being joyful that God gave us this opportunity to love someone so much that it hurts so much when we can't be with them
I
or
love,
they're going through something
yeah.
difficult that makes us, as a parent, it's hard to see your child suffering in any way.
Yeah, I love that perspective so much because you can start to live for that person instead of just living for yourself. It's like, I want to experience the most amount of joy because I know life is short. So I love that. Thank you for sharing your perspective. And Hunter, over to you. So tell me about how you talk to these coaches and instill that it's okay to talk about Jesus in your coaching life with your team and create a safe environment for them to have these types of conversations.
Yeah, so I do a bunch of secular sports podcasts and coaching clinics and seminars and things like that. And then once I kind of share my faith towards the end with people who want to know, because I want to be non-threatening to people and welcome them in. They want to know, how do you share your faith with your team? Because in 2026, it's not okay in a lot of places, right? And I usually say, you don't throw your Bible at their heads. You live it out. You live it in a way that makes them go, oh, that person is different. Why are they different? And they start investigating, like, why is this person so kind? Or why does this person have joy? Why does this person have purpose, impact, all these things? And then they want to know, like, how can I have that? And then you go, you can't have it, man. Jesus is for everybody, including you. So I found it to be like this coaching community to be like this stealth ninja attack with the gospel, where I'm like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about sports, but then I'm going to hit you with Jesus towards the end. And you want to live in a way and talk in a way that encourages that conversation and doesn't make people go, I'm not really buying what you're selling before you even bring it to the table.
I love that. And let me ask, so what are some of the ways that Jesus has changed your life in sports? I mean, obviously you quit your whole job for it and transitioned out of obedience, but when you have Jesus and you have that joy, you play different, you think different. Tell me a little bit about that.
I tell athletes all the time, like, if you're a believer, you should be the hardest worker on your team. People think, like, Christians, like, oh, it's all good, you just tried hard. It's like, no, like, you should be working for it as if it's for the Lord and not for men. So you should be diving on the floor. You should be showing up early. You should be staying late. Why? Because I'm working because God gave me this ability. God gave me this gift. And I owe it to him to perform to the best of my ability, to try the hardest that I possibly can in order to make an impact, because that's how the Lord made me and designed my being. He knitted my soul together as an athlete. And if I'm not attacking that with purpose and relentless energy, then I'm wasting a talent that he gave me. And I think that saddens the Lord. And I think it gives him joy when we pursue the things that he's put a passion on our hearts for. And that's really helped me understand kind of how to chase down athletic dreams while you have a strong faith.
I love that. You can't spell discipline without disciple. That's what I like to say. That's a beautiful perspective and beautiful way of putting things. And it's just so important. It really changes everything about how you show up on the court and in everyday life. And now, David, one last question for you. If you had a tip for grieving families, what would you tell them?
Well, I think our greatest example is Jesus.
Yeah.
The shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept. Jesus knows the outcome. He knew the outcome. He knew what was happening, but he had the empathy for Martha and Mary and for Lazarus. He knew that the pain and suffering they were going through was painful. And he knew the joy that they would have coming forward, but that moment was still hard. And so for people who are grieving, or maybe if you know someone who's grieving, oftentimes the best thing you can do for them is to sit silently, just like Job's friends did in the beginning.
Yeah.
Once they opened their mouths, they said things that were unhelpful. But the most powerful thing that they did is they sat in silence with Job. And sometimes as a grieving parent, you just need someone beside you. You don't need words. You don't need comfort. The best comfort is knowing that people are around and love you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most powerful thing I can tell people who are going through the grief process or know someone who's going through the grief process. I call my book The Unspoken Word for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is often people don't know what to say to a grieving parent. How do you comfort a grieving parent, especially if you yourself have never gone through? Oftentimes just showing up and being available, doing the dishes, mopping a floor, throwing the trash is more powerful than words that you're trying to come up with.
Absolutely. That's such good advice because I used to be the number one advice giver. I would go straight to advice. And then I learned it's better to ask, what do you need right now? Space, love, or advice? And sometimes the person may not have the answer at all. So that stillness, that silence, that presence with them is exactly what they need. So I love what you're doing. Thank you both so much for sharing your passion and your love for the Lord with me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and viewers, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Living My Faith. If you want more information about these two gentlemen and their ministry, you can check it out right underneath this video. We have their website and many other profiles right here on Living My Faith, and we'll see you in the next episode.